The prime ministers of Visegrad Group countries agreed on Tuesday in Prague that Ukraine needs help but differ on the forms of assistance.
The Kremlin says a direct conflict between NATO and Russia would be an inevitability if the military alliance deployed troops to Ukraine.
Israel's military says it has uncovered a network of what it calls terror tunnels connecting the north and south of the Gaza Strip.
The prime ministers of Visegrad Group countries, Czech Republic, Slovakia, Poland and Hungary, agreed in Prague on Tuesday that Russia's aggression against Ukraine is a flagrant violation of international law and that Kyiv needs help. Yet the V4 countries differ in their views on the causes of Russia's aggression and in the forms of assistance they are willing to provide to Kyiv. The Czech Republic and Poland are providing military aid to Ukraine, while Hungary and Slovakia do not share this position.
Volt már a történelmünkben olyan, amikor a Szovjetunió és Magyarország rendelkezett közös határral. Erről az időszakról rossz emlékeink vannak. Tehát a magyar nemzetbiztonság legfontosabb alapvetése az, hogy tőlünk keletre legyen egy olyan entitás, amely Oroszország és Magyarország között helyezkedik el. Ezért Ukrajnát a magyar nemzeti érdekek miatt is segítjük. A véleménykülönbség ott van közöttünk, hogy hogyan lehet jól segíteni Ukrajnát. A magyar álláspont az világos, mi nem küldünk fegyvert Ukrajnába.
Dozens of people gathered at the Liechtenstein Palace, where the V4 meeting took place, to protest against Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orbán and Slovakian Prime Minister Robert Fico.
Following French President Emmanuel Macron's statement that sending NATO troops to Ukraine should not be ruled out, the Kremlin has said such a move would inevitably lead to a conflict with Russia. Macron was speaking at a meeting of Western leaders in Paris. The response of Vladimir Putin's press secretary was unambiguous.
Это, конечно, абсолютно не в интересах этих стран, они должны отдавать себе в этом отчет. В этом случае уже нужно говорить не о вероятности, а о неизбежности.
Macron's allies also poured cold water on the idea. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz said that NATO soldiers would be redeployed from active service to Ukraine, a view echoed by the alliance's Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg. Despite apparent divisions on this issue, the military bloc has been united in welcoming Sweden into its ranks after the Hungarian parliament finally gave its approval. It gives the West a strategic dominance in the Baltic region.
Israel's military says it has uncovered another underground network of what it calls terror tunnels connecting the north and south of the Gaza Strip. One of the main objectives of the Israeli offensive has been to destroy the networks, which the IDF says are used by Hamas to move fighters, weapons and supplies throughout the territory. With Israel maintaining its position on an imminent invasion of Rafah in pursuit of Hamas fighters, the Palestine Red Crescent Society has in the meantime successfully evacuated 24 people from the overwhelmed Al-Amal hospital in nearby Khan Yunis. Israel's military has finally presented the war cabinet with a plan for evacuating the population from areas of fighting, despite international calls for it to cancel the operation. On the political front, Palestinian Prime Minister Mohammed Shataya has resigned along with his government, which runs parts of the occupied West Bank. President Mahmoud Abbas has accepted his decision. Shataya's resignation signals a willingness by the Western-backed Palestinian leadership to accept reforms as it wants to take over the running of Gaza from its rival Hamas once the war is over. A veteran human rights campaigner has been sentenced to 2.5 years in prison by a Russian court for discrediting the country's armed forces. Oleg Olov, who's 70, was a leader of the group Memorial, which jointly won the Nobel Peace Prize in 2022, a year after it was banned and dissolved in Russia. Orlov was convicted of denigrating the military in an article in the French magazine Mediapart. The story also criticised the war in Ukraine.
more environmental crimes will be punished across the EU. The European Parliament approved Tuesday a revised directive on the protection of the environment through criminal law that updates the list to include illegal timber trade, depletion of water resources, and substantial damage to an ecosystem. Breaches of EU chemicals legislation will also be criminalized, explains Rapporteur Manders, punishing companies for dumping polluting substances.
I think we have to stop these behaviors just to make extra money. They pollute or make people sick, and I think that's a crime, I think. So it's good that we introduce this now as a minimum harmonized criminal law in Europe. And even it's possible to take CEOs responsible if the company is misbehaving.
The directive aims to establish uniform sanctions for environmental crimes across the EU, with companies to be fined up to 5% of their annual worldwide turnover and imposing up to 10 years of imprisonment for individuals.
10 years is when a behavior is killing people, so it's an environmental crime with death, which causes death, and that's actually murder. And then they get 10 years, and that's if they do it, let's say, intentionally, just to make money.
The law was approved with the support of almost all the political groups of the chamber. It must enter into force in all member states within 2 years from its formal adoption. Thousands of farmers protested in the center of Warsaw on Tuesday against European Union agriculture policies and imports of cheap food from neighboring Ukraine. Protesters are also demanding for the Polish government to withdraw from the EU's Green Deal, which is designed to combat climate change with measures that include reducing the use of pesticides. About 30,000 people took part in the protest.
Nie będzie zgody na to, żeby jakaś lewacka ideologia zabraniała nam hodowli zwierząt, uprawy naszej ziemi. Nie możemy się poddać tej chorej ideologii, która nam narzuca, co mamy robić, a czego nie.
In Catalonia, Spain, farmers blocked the main motorway link to France. Protesters emptied several trucks of Moroccan-made fruit and vegetables on the road. Throughout the day, traffic jams were visible on several roads near the border.
Taxi drivers in Athens have begun a 48-hour strike in Athens. They're calling for lower taxes, access to bus lanes, and stricter regulation of ride-sharing apps. The action will coincide on Wednesday with a general strike by public and some private sector workers that is expected to disrupt public transport to the Greek capital, ferries, and airports. It will also coincide with the first anniversary of a railway disaster that killed 60 people and injured dozens, the deadliest the country has experienced.
German authorities say a former member of the disbanded left-wing militant Red Army faction group has been arrested after more than 30 years on the run. Prosecutors in the northern town of Verdun confirmed the arrest of 65-year-old Daniela Klette in an apartment in Berlin. Klette is one of 3 former Red Army faction members whom police have been seeking for years. They've also been linked to at least 12 robberies in northern Germany between 1999 and 2016 and were sought for attempted murder.
It was a lengthy, high-security trial. Its main defendant, Ridwan Taghi, seen as the mastermind of what is thought to be the Netherlands' largest drug cartel. On Tuesday, a court convicted him and 2 other men to life imprisonment for their roles in a series of gangland killings. Another 14 suspects were sentenced to different terms. There was maximum security in court. The judges reading out the verdict remained anonymous, while streets around the courthouse in Amsterdam were cordoned off. Since the trial began almost 6 years ago, the brother of a key witness, his lawyer and a journalist have been killed. Taghi was the Netherlands' most wanted fugitive before his 2019 extradition from Dubai.
A German far-right extremist already serving a life sentence has been convicted of hostage-taking in the course of a jailbreak attempt. Stephen Balliet was sentenced to 7 years in prison. During the trial, the defendant acknowledged that in December 2022, he took prison officers in the eastern town of Berg hostage using a homemade weapon in an attempt to escape. Balliet was sentenced to life in prison in 2020 for his attack on a synagogue in Halle in central Germany the previous year, in which he killed 2 people.
Italian MEP Alessandra Mussolini, granddaughter of the dictator Benito Mussolini, claims to have been attacked in Strasbourg on Monday in a video she posted on her X account. She alleges that she was verbally and physically assaulted.
Stavamo al centro, buio, tra l'altro io non è che stavo in un gruppo di facinorosi, mi ha riconosciuto, c'è stato l'insulto, questa aggressione, poi ringraziando Dio i miei assistenti siamo andati via perché poi non sai mai se hanno qualcosa in mano. Non ci devono essere condizionamenti, dobbiamo essere libere di fare le nostre attività, le nostre cose, girare per strada tranquillamente, non farci mai condizionare. Dovrò fare più palestra.
Mussolini maintains that she does not wish to press charges, but posted on her social media later thanking her followers for their solidarity. She was elected into the European Parliament in 2014.